Hey there! Welcome to Get a Room, the podcast. This is your go-to podcast about the vibrant world of hospitality. We will tell you everything about crafting unique hospitality brands, running cozy hotels, and creating iconic food and beverage experiences. And what are the secrets and strategies that make a perfect customer experience? We'll also dive into the world of graphic and space design and explain how they influence our experiences as guests. Join us as we explore the art of making people feel right at home, one episode at a time.
Hello, everyone. We are super happy to have with us a special guest today for this third episode. His name is Charlie, and we started talking about him because we knew him through Steve, who was our first guest in the first episode. So don't hesitate to start listening from the first, because we have this story that is ongoing about the hospitality industry. So today we have Charlie with us, who is at some point like second mind of Ceek Agency. They are working together with Steve to create this holistic brand experience and strategy. Steve is on the more operational aspects, and Charlie is more on the marketing and brand-wise topics. Welcome, Charlie. So we are happy to have you with us. We would love to hear about you.
Yeah, no problem. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me. I mean, obviously Steve being your first guest, he's a great speaker, so a tough one to follow. But Ceek was actually founded in 2016. So Steve's business, Steve and I launched Sense only around 2 years ago, but Ceek's been around for quite a long time. It started actually, funny enough, as a dedicated hospitality-focused marketing agency. With at the time, it was a bit of a luxury steer, but quite quickly over the first year we kind of diversified into other industries. I'll talk you through those reasons a bit later on if you're interested. But yeah, we started off with I had a background in the kind of hospitality space, and we found that with that business, which was actually looking at other things such as recruitment, events, etc., we found that we were kind of almost consulting for free on hospitality businesses, marketing almost just daily, and it's actually kind of I had a bit of a goal really to ultimately end up owning and operating a marketing agency. We were in good timing. Well, you could say good timing. Obviously COVID was a bit of a different situation when you were a hospitality specialist, but when we launched in London, the industry was booming. New openings. There was no Brexit. Staffing was great. It was a really good time. And leveraging that network, we quite quickly signed a number of restaurant, hotel, casino, kind of pretty much everything in the hospitality landscape, both in the UK then and internationally. But I just absolutely love it. Even today, it really doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah, you were talking about, I think we will get into it after that, but I'm just pretty much interested because it's this question is obsessing me. How come that London is at some point like super advanced in terms of concepts, in terms of business, compared to I think I asked the same questions to Steve, but I would love to have your answer. How come that like every now and then, like I think I go to London like twice a year, just like to visit for leisure, and I'm super surprised to see new concepts all the time. Sometimes I'm just like, I stop in front of a shop or a restaurant or whatever, being surprised that I don't understand what is the concept that is in front of me. I'd like just to say how much you are advanced guys in terms of hospitality. Like, do you have an idea about how it works? Is it like a cultural thing, or?
I would actually argue, I think there's two factors. And again, I've forgotten what Steve's answer was, so it'd be interesting to compare. The first thing I would actually say is it could be classed as a negative, but ultimately the market is so competitive that actually there's a lot of closures. So you get a lot of openings, but you also get a lot of failures. I'd say more so than other cities, because the rents and the pressure and there's real winners and losers. So within that then creates opportunity for effectively new operators. Now, when you say about culture, I would argue that London is so cosmopolitan. So we're very lucky that I think we actually get the best of all of the other cultures a lot of the time coming into the city, which then creates that melting pot for innovation and quality. I would say, obviously I know the marketing landscape particularly well, having now worked across every continent with clients, both with local partners and brand, as an agency. I do actually think the quality of the marketing, the creative, and all of that side, I really do think nothing comes close to London. There are certain cities that have a steer towards creativity, I'd say, maybe above and beyond London, or there's some amazing content, for example, that comes out of certain cities. But in terms of the kind of technical marketing ability, a lot of the platforms as well will have quite large head offices in London because of a lot of the kind of advertising, etc., is driven out of London. And if you look at all of the big kind of agency networks, they were also born here. But yeah, I think it's a mixture of the competitiveness, which creates opportunity and the need to be different, and the people that are attracted to the city. And I would actually say it's the international group of individuals that come, and that's that melting pot for innovation. I don't think it's necessarily cultural. The British culture in business can be quite a depressing thought. We're very, very negative. I mean, if you look at and this is in general, I surround myself with people that are the opposite of this, whether they're British or not. But ultimately, if you talk about the kind of, let's say, the American dream, and how people talk about that, what we're really talking about here is, if you go to New York, you go to LA, and you say, hey, this is what I do, their immediate reaction is, oh my God, that's amazing, let me introduce you to X person, Y person. That's the default way they work. In the UK, oh, how's it going? You shouldn't really say, yeah, really well, we're absolutely killing it. Do you know anyone? Like, it's kind of like, no. You need to say, oh, it's okay. Like, so actually culturally, I'd say the UK's kind of preset is one of the worst in the world. It's that of dampening things down. It's keeping your contacts and your information close. So what you'll find is in hospitality that because it's so multicultural, the Britishness is lost from a business point of view, which is a great thing, because we're definitely not the leaders there. I think we're terrible culturally.
Yeah, that's interesting. Go ahead, Luca.
Yeah, I was going to say we have something different in France. We want to know what's behind the curtain of a business. So you say, okay, I'm doing this. 5 minutes later, you talk to someone else. You say, do you think that really works, what he's doing? And we always say, ça marche. You think that ça marche? We always want to know if it's a good business or not,
Yeah.
We always think in France, like as French people, we always think that things are not working.
Yeah.
Like, we always take the worst bet on people. So whenever you see something, you say like, yeah, it's not working. Or even like if you see people queuing outside the place, you will say like, I feel that there is something wrong about this business.
Yeah. What are they doing? How are they doing it? Yeah, they must be cutting a corner.
They are cheating somewhere. We don't know why, but like, we feel it. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting, because I think it's like what you are saying is, at some point, hospitality is like getting rid of the cultural bias that you have in the UK, and like in the way of doing business in the UK. And this is why it's freeing your people's self from the culture to be at some point a leader in terms of hospitality in Europe. It's super interesting, and we had this conversation with Lucas about like how we are still being like stuck in our arrogance in Paris, for instance, when we open things, and we don't trust like newcomers, we don't trust like new ways of doing in terms of even if in terms of designing new concepts, thinking about new strategies, etc. So we keep being traditionalist. I think one of the advices that, and we are only about like 10 minutes from the beginning, and the first advice is like, free yourself from your cultural bias to start your new business. It's we can turn this podcast into a coaching podcast. Yeah, and I'd just like to conclude on your profile. So, sportsman, how did you end up working in digital marketing leader?
Yeah, so obviously, when you're talking about France, rugby is obviously a big part of the culture in certain areas there as well. So yeah, I was a rugby guy from around the age of 10, played at the kind of highest level, and yeah, I was a very competitive sportsman. That was my life prior to the world of business. Don't get me wrong.
I played rugby too, but I was lame, to be honest. Well, I was really lame.
And for the ones that don't have for the ones that only have the audio and not the video, we can tell who's doing rugby, who went a bit further in rugby.
Who is better than the other? Yes.
I mean, and I was one of the small ones as well. I mean, interestingly, rugby's an interesting game, especially I'm not as well versed globally, but in the UK, yes, it's a very physical sport, and at the level that I was playing at, you might love it, and definitely I did love it, and I was playing for fun, but that's not really why you're there. It was getting very serious. But the community aspect of rugby and we had players from all over the world that we were playing with, from New Zealand, from France, from South Africa, kind of all over, Canadians, and I do owe a lot of the principles that our business has today to my rugby career. There's so many things. I mean, not just the competitiveness. I mean, as an agency, we're very, very competitive. We use the word aggressive actually internally. How aggressive can we be? Like really pushing, because again, when you're talking about these concepts and these brands that you guys deal with, help to create, we're the amplification end. We're meant to be putting a rocket behind these brands. So that competitiveness is key. But rugby for me was so much more than that. And the network, no matter how aggressive it was, straight after the game, as everyone always says about rugby, you're having a beer together. There's a reason why the away fans and the home fans are all mixed in. I was actually in Paris at the World Cup final not long ago with a client actually, and again, unfortunately England weren't in it, but everyone's just having a great time. It's more about the sport. Yes, they want to win, but yeah, it's a special sport, and I'd love to kind of get back into it, maybe post agency career,
maybe as a manager.
Yeah, it's definitely not playing. I couldn't go back into it again.
Yeah. Yes, but it's interesting because there's this parallel between sports and professional world, and even if we are bringing it to the hospitality aspect, is you still like being at a stadium, ordering a beverage or beer or something. It's like it's part of the hospitality experience. It's just like it's always the same thing. And like if you feel like in this experience aspect as a sportsman, you just like have this, also having this your teammates around you and like trying to achieve something together. You find it also in business. You find it also in hospitality. You find it also everywhere. And I think it's a good state of mind, which we don't find especially in football, because we are a big fan of football, but in rugby, it could be like a great example to follow. So let's start talking about hospitality. Seriously, Luca and I think among other people also, we are big believers in customer experience. Customer experience, we believe that it starts from the beginning, and this is our relation. We believe that it starts from the beginning, and I would love to have your opinion on how you guys at Ceek Agency try to create, reinforce, I don't know the verb that we have to choose for this question. How do you leverage digital marketing to enhance, to create, to reinforce this customer experience through the journey to his first booking, his first relationship with a brand in hospitality? How do you do it, and what do you think about it?
It's a great question, and obviously hospitality is all about that customer experience, right? That's what differentiates the good and the great. I mean, now the customer experience starts online. I believe that most hospitality brands globally are aware of the fact that the experience starts online. However, there's definitely a lack of understanding of what the use of that online touch point is. So, a kind of a practical example is, okay, you're a customer and you're 1 year, 2 years out of planning your trip. What do you do? How do you interact with that brand? Firstly, is it visible? Because if the brand isn't physically available to be seen at that stage, that's kind of one of those marketing elements that I would always push is, you physically need to be there. I'd say number two, you're then saying, okay, if you are visible, how are they actually going to interact with your brand? I mean, there's so many customers, and again, we as marketers sometimes are a little bit arrogant that we kind of think that we know exactly how people are going to find you, communicate with you, engage with you, and what their experience is going to be. So you can't do that. You've got to leave it open. I mean, I know that I've got friends that will see a hospitality brand online, whether that be a restaurant or a hotel internationally or whatever, and they're saving that post or subscribing to their newsletter almost as a reminder, like, one day I'm going to go to this place, and it's quite a long lead, and that's fine. And that's one part. I mean, on the other end, and at some point in the podcast, if we've got time, I'd love to talk to you about some of the principles that we use at the agency.
Go ahead. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's two main principles that get lost, especially in the hospitality world. I'd say in the kind of pure e-commerce space, they're a little bit more well versed in this, but you've effectively got your what we call market making and market taking. So by market making, it's the inspiration, it's being visible, it's getting in front of someone that maybe they don't want to travel to Paris. It's not in their mind to go to your hotel or your restaurant. Maybe not, but because of the quality of the content that's interrupted their day, you effectively grow your market, you make a market, you inspire people to want to interact and want to have an experience with you. The market taking side, it's not necessarily as exciting and what people would maybe think of when they think of marketing, but it's a bit more reactive. Someone looking for a hotel in the Maldives, it's someone looking for a specific dish, or a roast dinner in London, or the best steakhouse in Paris, or whatever these different things are. And then you're saying, okay, can we capture that audience that are already looking for what we sell? So yeah, two very different things, market making, market taking, but just so important. And again, they are the start of the customer experience for a brand. I mean, it goes so far, and the best brands are so that they're on it. Someone messages on Instagram, asks a question about a specific steak, that they've got people that are really knowledgeable about their products that are messaging back straight away, in real time, and having these interactions with these clients. That's exactly the same as what would be happening with a maitre d' or a server. So yeah, I really do feel like the experience does start online. Even more so, just if you're planning that trip to the Maldives, if you think about this kind of resort marketing is something that we've been talking about a lot recently. We've had a really big project in Ibiza that is effectively marketing a resort. There's 8 restaurants, cafe, 2 hotels.
Yeah.
We're looking at the whole thing, and ultimately people are literally planning their days off of Instagram. So it's the girlfriend sending the boyfriend, hey, we're doing this on the Monday, look, this. So it really does start online, rather than kind of getting there and getting the map out and saying, okay, where are we going? It's starting online.
And I saw, like, you were pointing something that is interesting. I don't know if you heard about it, but at some point I was working for a client who's in hospitality before, and what we noticed also is one of the main search engine that were used for hospitality was TikTok, or is TikTok. I don't know if it's still accurate or not, but people are looking for the next destinations on TikTok. They're not going on Google. They're not going on whatever search engine or whatever travel agency or airlines. They are going on TikTok. So like, what is the next visual thing that I will be doing? So it's interesting that you are talking, but what I'm questioning, like what brings us question for me is, but is it like part of digital marketing strategy? Is like, are the brands, do they have any role in this, or they are just like looking at it because users are reshifting the way of looking for the next hospitality destination?
So you actually hit a really good point there. So are brands just spectators? It's a great question. Now, if you do not participate as a brand on, for example, TikTok, it's a great example, and we see it all the time. We go into consulting meetings, and funnily enough, our head of strategy, Heidi, has just very recently given a talk at the TikTok offices about selling on the platform. Ultimately, you are going to be on the platform, so you either dictate that message or you become a spectator, and the customer will dictate that message. So if you are, for example, quite brand precious, as an example, which is understandable, and people should care about their brand, if you're not participating either actively as a brand, so first party through your own branded account, Or if that's not the way you want to go, you can control the narrative with third party. You can invite the right creators in, that you can help them understand the brand and bring them on that journey. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an owned channel. It could be a third party. But if you're not participating, you are a spectator. And then what we do see then is that brands sometimes can be portrayed in a way that the business doesn't really want. But the reason for that social search element, if you like, of why people are searching on TikTok, there's a few reasons. One is because of the indicative kind of length of the video. So when you search, yes, it's very visual, but very quickly, because of the way people create the content, whether you're going to get the right information. And if not, you can skip to the next one. Okay, this is the thing I need. And then you layer in that it's real, it's a real person, it's raw. You can click on the comments, see what other people think about it. Like all of those kind of, let's say, social media kind of interactive baked in elements are there. Also, what TikTok does better than anyone is the algorithm. The algorithm is by far the best. So it's going to show you content that other people have saved, shared. Again, remember the way that social media is now. It's very different to how it was, say, 5 to 10 years ago. Back then, is what we call a friends graph, meaning let's show you things that the people you are friends with are also interacting with. What TikTok really pioneered was the interest graph. So the way it's saying, based on your past interests, what do we think you're going to be most interested in when searching that term? Which is just so it's a better experience because it's more individual.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting because it leads me to another question. Like if I put myself in a hospitality venue, or I am just an independent, it could be like sometime could be super overwhelming to see how many things you could be doing, and it could be like super expensive and super time consuming to be on every touch point that the digital landscape could offer. So for instance, if I am just like running a burger restaurant, do you think, Charlie, that I should be on Instagram, that I should be on TikTok, that I should be on newsletters, that I should be on everything? Or there is like
Best
strategies or tactics, yes, or I should like be targeting more this platform or the other one or the other, or do you think in your view it's like it's a combination of everything? So what would you, if I were a burger restaurant based in Shoreditch, what would you advise me to do?
It is difficult, and it depends on what your aspirations for the brand are. I mean, I would always say if the resource is there, the budget is there, then you should do as much as you can. And when I say as much as you can, the reality is the people that eat burgers are on Facebook, Instagram, they're on Pinterest, they're on TikTok, they're Googling, they're on TripAdvisor, they are everywhere. However, when you're looking at a brand and you're looking at that strategy, it is worth looking at, okay, who are the target demographic that I want to hit? And obviously when you're creating that brand, it's going to be talking to those individuals. So then you want to be saying, okay, where do they live online? And you definitely can prioritize different platforms. I mean, email and newsletters is a really interesting one, because right now in this agency, if I was to look at across a kind of a, say, 50 clients that we're working with that sell something online, so not really a burger restaurant, but if I was to look, depending on the industry, between like 15 to 30% of their revenue comes from their existing database. So email and things like this, push, SMS. Now, if you think about a restaurant, the way they kind of look at things is, oh, we need to do a newsletter. And it's, what I would just do is say, actually, if you're stuck with resource, forget a newsletter, just have a sequence and automation from when someone signs up to your newsletter that takes them on the brand story that's kind of set, and you can always add to it. And then if you do have some news and you want to get that out to your audience, you can send that out in addition. But it's almost like saying, actually, what really, really matters is if someone does go on a website, signs up to a newsletter, because that's the way they like to be communicated by a brand, that they're taken on a story and indoctrinated into the brand. So the burger place in Shoreditch should be saying, okay, who's my customer? Where do they live online? And on the flip side, though, I would say if you're creating content for a platform such as Instagram, it does baffle me when people say, oh, we don't have enough resource to do multiple channels. I mean, if you can't afford to have bespoke content for each channel that's to each audience, why would you not sweat the assets and get as much out of the content that you do have? So, you know, Pinterest is such a good example, so underutilized here in the UK. It's very big in France as well, as you know. But, you know, why would you not put those images across on that platform? It's what we call an evergreen platform. So anything with a search bar really has an evergreen factor. So someone could search for best burgers in Shoreditch in the search bar of Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, Google. You know, even the smallest thing, like biggest tip for burger restaurant in Shoreditch is when they create this amazing picture of this hero, like tower stack burger that probably going to kill you, which I would definitely have weekly. You know, make sure when you upload that image to your website that it's called something burger, not image _0001. Because again, then Google's looking at this website and going, what do these guys do? They're the same as everybody else. Because Google, with AI, it's going to definitely start to change. But, you know, you need to help Google to know who you are. So as an agency, our core services really for the hospitality businesses are social media in general, content and influencer marketing, which I would say is very close to that. We have search engine optimization, which is a little bit more of that market taking reactive piece. So are you showing up on Google? And we now have what we call social search, which is optimizing in things like TikTok. We have paid acquisition, which is, okay, social media, you might grow organically. In Google, you might show up organically. What happens if you need traffic tomorrow? So you're launching this burger restaurant and we need eyeballs in Shoreditch on that. That's where the paid media kind of landscape comes in. And then there's other things that we do in relation to those services, digital PR, etc. But ultimately, you need to make people aware that you exist, because people are planning. I'll be honest, where it goes back to, guys, is people are very precious with their time. So if you're going away to Paris, for example, you're jumping on the Eurostar, people are so precious about their time. They're not wandering around, which is a shame because there's a beauty in that. But, you know, they know where they're going. They've looked it up online and they're putting it in Google Maps and they've got their AirPods in. And it's like, turn left, boom. They walk there, they go to that thing. You know, it's less kind of, it's a shame. There's definitely a beauty in just walking around and stumbling into a bar. But, you know.
Yeah, it's like the wondering part that you were talking about, and find it interesting, is like it moved from real life to digital life. So I am wondering on my social media or my smartphone, and this is where like I'm looking for inspiration. Then when I find it, I want to get to it directly. I find it like super interesting, and I want to just to get back on something that you were talking about, is like this weird evergreen content. If I'm still like in this burger restaurant that I want to launch in Shoreditch. And should I focus first on creating this evergreen content and then think about like creating like more ephemeral content to bring people, like a campaign, for instance, or shall I do it the other way around? Because if I put myself in my client's shoes, they will be typing, I'm looking for a burger in Shoreditch, for instance, and I want them to, like, if I create this campaign, this paid campaign, for instance, and they don't find anything behind it, like they don't find my content on Pinterest, on Instagram, etc. Is there any chronology that I have to respect, or shall I just like go for it and then try things? Or
you're 100% right. You need those foundations. You know, you launch a big campaign, you go viral, and there's nothing there. It could waste that. You could get more out of that spend. So definitely getting those foundations there. I mean, the way I look at evergreen content for a hospitality brand is ultimately you're kind of planting seeds. So you know, every time you put a piece of content out that is evergreen, that lasts, you know, could get you a customer not just today, in a week, in a month, in a year. For example, you know, I hope this podcast goes on YouTube. You know, because it's evergreen. You know, I hope that the burger restaurant would have some post on these platforms that is optimized for search, because again, it can get you a customer not just in a week and in a month. So you get that snowball effect. If you're planting 100 seeds in a year that are all evergreen, in year 2, your indicative cost of marketing to those same customers is way less. And I would say that the paid media or the campaigns or that more aggressive period that you mentioned, that's the fuel on the fire. But you need to have the fire first. You need to have those basics covered. So for me, get those foundations in place. Make sure that if someone hears about you through word of mouth, that when they go to kick the tires to say, okay, are these guys serious? What was it? Samash? Like, what's the deal here? Everything's there, and you're covering your bases. And even a customer review, that's an evergreen piece of content. That's an evergreen testimonial for your brand. Someone in a year is looking at the review from a year ago if it's prioritized in Google for TripAdvisor. But definitely there's a chronology to it, 100%.
And it's super interesting because we could be talking about, like, for other industries, I think, let me know what you think about it. But for other industries, we could be talking about SEO, for instance, referencing on web, on Google, etc. But when it comes to hospitality, I think there is like more than SEO that you need, because it's the only industry where you having opinion of people on Google matters more than having like a good reference on the web. So if you do the 101 class on SEO, so you create a beautiful website, the content is good, etc., but your experience is mediocre, I think at some point, like, the opinions that you have from your guests on Google matter most. So what could be your advice to have this reputation work well?
When we pitch businesses, they come to us, they say, hey, we've got the burger restaurant, potentially we'd work with you. The first slide after our logo, the Ceek logo, is that we're the unfair advantage to the best brands in each sector. It used to just be the best brands, and people might just think hospitality brands, but now we truly want to or represent the best brands in each sector that we're in. So whether that's in the sustainability space, whether that's in the health and wellness space, hospitality space, fashion, home design, we truly believe our clients are the best brands. What I mean by that is we're very lucky. For example, we just started working with Gail's bakeries, Gail's Bakery in the UK, and they are, I think it's 100 venues around the country, but actually there are 100 local bakeries that are really specific about their customer. The product is incredible. It's definitely not the cheapest in the market. People really do pay for that quality, but they know who they are. The brand is very, very solid, and we're there to get that in front of more people that would enjoy that experience. And SEO is a really interesting one in hospitality because it's just a no-brainer to get that right. Yeah, it's just a no-brainer because it's where people always start in a search bar, and whether it's a PA with a problem that needs somewhere for someone to go right now, or whether it's a someone in that inspiration phase that's looking into the future of what they want to be planning and doing. Either way, it's starting with a search. But to your point around almost marketing can be the worst enemy if the product and the experience isn't right when people come in. And we won't work with someone if the experience is bad. All of our clients, we have experienced their product. We use their product. We sometimes we are the target market, sometimes we're not. But if you really throw fuel on the fire and you really nail it in your marketing, and the product is bad, the experience is bad, you're going to kill your business even quicker. Because people want to hear the reviews, the word of mouth. And again, now it's even more raw. You'll have someone on TikTok literally showing you what's wrong. If something's not clean, or if something's a bad portion size, or it can impact your. So when working with an agency like us, it's very much kind of, we are trusting the operator to make sure the experience is as good as it can be. And we will advise on that as well. And that's kind of why Sense was born with Steve a couple of years ago, was we only did the marketing. We couldn't really get involved in the operations. So what we sometimes have now is that the business grows from a marketing sense. Maybe they have multiple sites and they're just not maturing quick enough. I say it to my team all the time. Businesses grow quicker than people, always. And you know, businesses will grow really, really quickly, and the operations of a business might not actually grow at the same rate. The marketing might even grow at a much faster rate. And with platforms like TikTok, we see that. We've got a brand called Mogu Mogu. I don't know if you've tried it.
No.
Soft drink brand. Yeah. We sold 45 million bottles last year in the UK, and they only arrived in the UK the year before. It just went whack. So again, it's up to the operator to, okay, can we fulfill demand? The product quality is very consistent because it's a manufactured product. Yeah. But again, we need to continue to innovate, because you've now got, you know, hundreds of thousands of people online that are actually expecting it more as a kind of, it's not just a drink, it's a kind of an entertainment channel now. You know, so you have to keep up with things, and that can be tough. That can be tough.
And I think one of the things that you said, and for the example of Mogu Mogu, you found the unfair advantage, because if I'm correct, you sold most of them through TikTok Shop, or part of it. For example, this is something we don't have in France yet, I think. The future is not available. But when it's going to be available in France, I'm not sure everyone's going to understand that this is something that you need to pick and use it as your advantage. Because there is always a bit of resilience at the start. And that's where, to me, an agency like Ceek really makes the difference. It's like, okay, guys, we spotted that opportunity, let's take it. And when you're a hotel, restaurant, brand, you're so much into your daily life that taking that advantage, you need someone that plant the seed into your brain, so you go towards that direction. And I can't wait to have that function to arrive in France on TikTok, so we can play around with it for sure.
Yeah, true.
It really is really interesting. I mean, the predictor really is, if you do look at Asia and how they shop and how they interact with brands, it is just more advanced. You know, we're even here. Yes, TikTok Shop is last week. Sorry, the main focus was you couldn't sell on TikTok Shop pre-owned goods. We represent a number of kind of vintage fashion brands and pre-owned sustainable brands. And that was like quite a big thing for them, that they could then move on to TikTok Shop. But again, if you're looking ahead to, okay, what's coming in Asia, a lot of the focus is around kind of like live shopping. So as in, I could imagine someone, a big talent, a big influencer with a big audience, actually in a hotel in the Maldives, live streaming and saying, oh, this room actually now, just for my audience, this is available at a 30% discount if you book it right now. And you'll actually start to see this kind of almost like a live shopping experience coming into hospitality. I actually haven't seen yet, so maybe we could figure something out together, and we could do that. Come back and let's see what the results were.
Let's do it. Yes, definitely. And I've been listening to you, and I think what you are pointing out is like, at some point, is like social media or influencer marketing reshaping also the hospitality. I think we already see it, but we are not maybe conscious on how tremendous the reshaping of influencer marketing is like changing the landscape of hospitality. Because what you were saying is like, when we were talking about like the Google opinions that people could put, and like if your experience is mediocre, etc., etc. But it takes one influencer to ruin your business or to make it grow. And how like me as a brand, like with my I'm still stuck with my Shoreditch burger concept. How can I control this, or at least like fix it if it's wrong, or use it if it's like to make it my unfair advantage to grow? From your experience, how do you like, what could be your advice to a brand like mine to work with the influencer marketing, for instance? Because it's like, I think it's the big thing right now.
Let's say we'll stick with burger. We'll stick with burger.
Yeah.
I'm getting very, very hungry. We're recording this pre-lunch, so I'm ready for it. And I unfortunately missed breakfast because I actually was with someone that owns. They do sell a lot of good burgers, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Now, you're the owner of the burger establishment in Shoreditch.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm sure the brand would be exceptional if you guys had anything to say about it. If you were the operator and that was your life, you really cared about what you're doing, you're in it for the right reasons, would you forget influencers a second, are you worried about someone coming in and having a bad experience in your establishment? Is that something you worry about?
Yes.
Okay. And what are the things that you're doing to put into place to ensure that they're not? Because I'll be honest with you, when we work with the best brands, they're not worried, as in they're obsessed with the customer experience. So sorry, they are worried about it, but they're confident, which I'm presuming would be, that the experience is going to be good. So ultimately, when you're looking at this kind of, again, we're throwing fuel on the fire, we're getting more eyeballs. The reality is, an influencer, let's just say your burger restaurant was a full restaurant, and for some reason this burger restaurant had a private dining room as well. Just bear with me. And I went in as a customer. I'm not an influencer personally, but what would happen if I had a bad experience? Well, maybe I'd never use you for my private dining for my team. Maybe because I also co-own a talent agency on the influencer side of the fence, we won't send our influencers in there either. I'll tell my mum when she's in Shoreditch and she's around Box Park not to go there. Like, the reality is, it doesn't matter if it's an influencer or not. Every customer matters, and your business should exist to effectively provide an exceptional experience. Don't get me wrong, I understand things go wrong, things happen, but again, I'm sure you've had people talk about this many, many times with you guys over the years, and just being in and around in your backgrounds, we know as hospitality individuals that sometimes when something goes wrong, that's the best opportunity to make a true relationship with a customer. All of the best experiences I've had has been when something's gone wrong and they've done something to make it better. It's almost better than just having a kind of a normal experience, So for me, if you're actually kind of thinking that your business is going to be, let's say, ruined by an influencer, you're kind of, you've probably got an intrinsic issue within the business operationally or in the product. Now, don't get me wrong, I do know that I won't say the brand now, but one of the, if not the most iconic 5-star hotel in London, of which there's only a handful.
Can we play a game and try to guess the name?
If you have a look around on our website, you'll probably see some logos, and you can see there's one of a few. But they had they're an iconic hotel, one of the oldest hotels, definitely the oldest 5-star hotel that I know of, and they're part of a much larger organization. So the brand itself is a very strong brand. It's been there a long time, but now technically they are part of a much, much bigger group. Now, they have an ambassador program with influencers at a group level, and then they were working with us on let's say, a local level, so specifically for the brand. And obviously, we're very brand conscious. The activations that we did were very, very tasteful and cut through the noise, and they were incredible campaigns. However, at a brand level, they had some kind of framework agreements with a few large influencers that would go to. People will know this story. Some people will know what I'm talking about here. But effectively, this influencer would go to their hotels in the Maldives. They're there. Anyway, in the middle of the peak of when everyone was talking about a cost of living crisis in the UK, there was an energy crisis because of the war. All of this sort of stuff had just started. That was the whole of the media landscape. The influencer went online and said, my heating's broken in my house. I'm going to go down to this 5-star luxury establishment because I'm just so hard done by. It didn't go down well, and it got caught by the press. The backlash was huge, and again, it was very it was distasteful based on what was going on in the media. And again, you know, she thought she was doing the right thing at the time. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't there was no malice in it. You know, she wasn't intentionally trying to be that way, but it didn't hit the mark. And again, it goes back to just having people involved in these situations that can. Let's go back to the burger restaurant and take it down to a smaller level. If you are actually working with influencers, you know, intentionally, make it easy for them. Hey, look, these are photogenic dishes, or hey, if we can book you a table in the window so you've got some natural light. You know, be conscious of the fact that maybe an influencer might want to come in an off-peak time where it's not as busy usually. Okay, well then, do you want to sit them so the whole restaurant looks empty behind them? You know, and they're like, oh my God, this is the best burger restaurant in Shoreditch. Oh my God, but there's no one else in there. You know, like you've just got to think about these different elements, and I see it all the time. You know, and not a lot of restaurants in London, a lot of it's gifted experience. So the burger restaurant isn't paying hundreds of pounds or thousands of pounds for the person to go in. Yeah. It's more of a, hey, come in, try my burger, review my burger, put it online. It's a fair exchange. And I think that ecosystem is great. But yeah, you know, sit them in the right place, make sure the lighting's as good as it can be, you know, and again, their experience should be exactly the same as the next customer. Of course. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. If you're doing it, do it properly. Don't half do it.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's true, and it's part of like this omni-channel experience. Because if you are doing if you want to do it right and create content for Instagram, TikTok on your own, on like your brand's name, if you are doing it with influencers, it makes sense. It has to be done with the codes of like how influencers are working. That's completely true. And I had a question about like some use cases that you've been working on, but I think we spoke about Gail's and this 5-star hotel and my burger restaurant that I'm launching now. That I want to do it now. And Gail's has these wonderful scones. I tried them and it's like it's pretty much expensive, but it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, it's a special brand that we well, the worst thing about working with them is you know, you go into a strategy meeting in their head office and they've got a bakery downstairs, and it's just the calorie intake versus time spent with them is just incredible. I mean, case studies are good to go through. It's always good to see what other people are doing. Like you say, look behind the curtain, actually see how people are doing these things. But, you know, you've really got to, in the hospitality industry, I think the biggest thing that we saw, especially when you look at the luxury hotel space in London, this is a really good example. I feel like Paris maybe could be a little bit like this, but, you know, they all just, when we arrived on that scene, they're all using the same photographers. They're all using they're doing the exact same thing. So you actually look at each hotel and it feels like you're looking at the same accounts. There's no differentiation of audience. This was way back, but no differentiation in the audience. The style of the content is almost identical. They're all basically doing like rooms, which will obviously the interiors will look different, some local interest stuff of what's near them, which is all they're all in the same sort of vicinity because central London isn't that big. You know, it was all just the same. Again, where they moved to, and we were definitely a big part of that movement with a lot of the brands is into partnerships. So actually working with you know, fashion brands and you know, different brands that are not competing with them, maybe local businesses, and true collaboration. And we kind of went through the age of, say, partnerships, which is, I'd say, very 2023, 2024. I think 2024, 2025, you're moving into these kind of like community groups that you can tap into. So
like-minded people,
massive. And you speak about Gail's. I mean, it wasn't intentional just because of the quality of the products and the type of audience they attract. But in London, run clubs are just insane.
Yes, I saw that. Yes,
it's crazy the amount of people that are these huge groups. Sometimes, you know, 100 people in a run club, and you know, if they're heading to your burger restaurant at the end of their run, that's a big day. You know, and again, it's like, how do you tap into those guys? So we've actually just started working with a brand called Click, which is CLIQ, and it's an app. Their whole app is just managing these communities, managing these run clubs, these book clubs, these networking groups. That it's incredible. So I think community marketing, which we could talk about a little bit later, perhaps, is going to be huge over the next year.
So I was just going to say there's also a small agency in France. It's called Netcode, I think. What they do is they're taking all those communities and bring them onto Discord, and they actually make sure to entertain the communities every day. So with some content, some challenges, some games, and they started pretty much the same with the small, and now they're actually even taking care of communities of some UFC fighters, French YouTubers. So it's clearly going that way, like making sure you get a strong link with your customers. And
and I think it's a nice transition, because we are moving toward a topic that I love. Like, I really like it, as future trends. And we started, like, at some point, like, drawing this scheme of what are the future trends that you are foreseeing, Charlie, on your side. So you start talking about collaboration, you start talking about community marketing. So what, like, if we have to keep in mind, like, let's say 3 or 5 big trends that you are foreseeing in the upcoming decade, let's say, what would that be for the hospitality industry? So for instance, for my burger venue, what would be like the trends that I have to keep in mind to make my business grow?
I think I'll give you 3 of the kind of the biggest trends that I see in kind of hospitality generally. And again, they're definitely applicable to a burger restaurant, but I think definitely in the kind of restaurant space and the travel space, to be honest, it's one of them, which I'll finish with, is in all businesses. But I think the first one we'll just circle back to is this kind of community groups piece. Now, what we're actually seeing there is the sweet spot, I'll be honest, is probably the influencer-led in-person events. So absolutely huge. So the reason I talk about influencer-led is you get the benefit of the audience with the individuals, and they are running an in-person event that is hosted at said venue, hotel, restaurant, resort. We've literally just started working with the best brand, in my opinion, in the paddle space. So we literally just signed them. They've got one club in Earl's Court. It's called Paddle Social Club. They're launching the O2 Arena and in Wandsworth. So I can't wait to be playing more paddle. So again, one of their first events was with a really, really large Pilates influencer. So not necessarily directly paddle, but again, health and wellness. They had the morning, people could come, experience the event, experience the facilities. You get the benefit of the audience, of the influencer, some incredible content out of the day. Effectively, these are kind of community events. I think a big trend, kind of to tag it onto that, I think health and wellness in general. Now, obviously this isn't a new trend, but what I'm specifically saying is actually activations that are maybe not involving alcohol or they're more health and wellness led. So we've seen a huge rise. A client that we've worked with for many years is called BXR. BXR are the one of the top kind of luxury gym brands in the UK. Okay, what's the difference with BXR to the other gym brands? They seem to be the only client that we have in the gym space that are actively running wellness retreats, which, to be honest, they won't mind me saying this, started very much as a brand play. So, it's going to look good if we're doing a retreat internationally. We can look after our kind of core, most prized members, and then it's oversubscribed. Next minute, the Edition are knocking on the door. So they started at Dials Cove in Greece. Now they did one this year in the Edition Hotel in Bodrum, and it's growing. So that retreats arm of their business is actually becoming not just a great source of content and kind of brand. It's also a revenue driver. So I think community events, health and wellness related marketing and across the hospitality industry. And it doesn't need to just be physical. It can be mental health. It can be, there's a lot more kind of like mindfulness retreats and things like this. I just think it's going to absolutely boom. And you'll see that even from a local level, a restaurant level, resorts, country resorts, and then international resorts. But I'd say the macro trend, if I had to say one thing that is just going to be, I think we should be conscious of from now, and again, you're probably going to get bored of hearing this, but the rise of AI is so paramount to our industry, and I do think hospitality brands are just very far behind from the adoption of AI. So if you look at it from a hospitality brand, one of the main areas that I would say hasn't really entered into the fray yet is the personalization of the customer experience, harnessing the power of AI. So if you think about it, a really, really personalized experience was almost limited to someone chartering a yacht, and they fill out a form that says, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I like this in the morning, this how, you have these kind of like spec sheets for these individuals that sometimes are filled out by their team about the individual because they're just so wealthy and their time is so precious. There's absolutely no reason why using big data and AI and these kind of community tools that you can't personalize someone's experience even in a burger shop. It's making that way more accessible than it was. I mean, with hotels, etc., if you do have these different options that are available to the guests, there's no reason why you can't have an AI kind of chatbot that's going backwards and forwards with those individuals before they actually get to the resort, that will allow you to personalize what pillow they like, to make restaurant recommendations when they get there, to maybe they don't drink alcohol, so you remove that from the minibar and you put something else that's a little bit more relevant. All of these different things will lead to more revenue for these businesses. Now, I get it, you can't do everything and it sounds quite overwhelming, but people need to remember how accessible AI is. And I would heavily recommend that anyone in the hospitality industry just download OpenAI's, new app, use it, just ask it and say, hey, just put on the voice function and just say, hey, this is my business. How do you think AI in the future, if I was really harnessing the power of this, could affect my business? And it will tell you. It may say something similar to what I've said. I'm not sure. But that is the thing that is going to change the hospitality industry the most in the coming years. It just doesn't make any sense for people not to be harnessing that. There are certain businesses that are starting to do it, but not really to that level and not in hospitality whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true. That's very inspiring.
Yeah, it's good and bad, right? Because it's a personalized experience for the individual, but the trick is making it personal, because no one wants to feel like when they're taking their time out from their work, that their experience is being kind of almost manufactured by some robot. No one wants that. They want that human connection. They want to feel that they're being looked after. So again, the real trick is going to be, how do you harness the power of AI and personalization to make it feel even more personal? And we have this thing internally that we have this HRH model, we call it. So it's like, if we're using AI, and we like to say we're an AI aware agency. I don't think AI is part of all of our processes. Definitely from a project management point of view, from an efficiency point of view, we look to harness it as much as we can. But with creativity in general, it's never going to come close to what humans can do. And even if you watch the interviews with the people that are most knowledgeable about AI in general, no one thinks that there's going to be any kind of replacement at a true creative level. But there will be replication. There will be democratization. Lots of people. There's going to be access to. I'll give you a really good example. if you create an incredible brand, and you do need to syndicate it across different languages, across different, why wouldn't you harness the power of AI? If I wanted to translate into 17 languages tomorrow, there's no way as a burger restaurant owner that I could do that. There's no way, but you could do it with AI for free.
Just in terms of just if you use it just for brainstorming, it's also a very good tool. It's like having 4 or 5 people more in part of your team, so you should definitely try it for in your
100%. And even to the point where again, I would prefer it to be human, but again, I've not if I went to a burger restaurant and they just said, hey, do you mind just letting us know how your experience was? We've got this new AI tool. You just press the button here and it goes, hey, how was your experience? And you just have a conversation with it. What was the best thing? What was the worst thing? Blah, blah. Thanks for your answer. We're entering you into a competition to win a free burger next month. Amazing. Sure. Crowdsource data. You can feed back into the management of the operations. You engage the customer. There's so many ways you can do it. And we haven't really seen how that's going to come into play yet. But I'd probably say even now, a third of all TripAdvisor responses from major hospitality brands are AI driven today.
It's like a chatbot that you have on the website.
Someone leaves a TripAdvisor review or a Google review and it's positive. Most of the responses, I would say within a year, I would say 80% of the responses will be AI driven, just thanking them, because that is a complete waste of resources time. That being said, I think negative reviews is going to be a long time before AI would be able to actually deal with that customer, because it's just emotive. Maybe it needs to be raised to a manager, but again, that's a really good use.
It needs to be it needs to be investigated when you have negative review. So that's,
and I would be curious to see how, like, for instance, because I know that like China is super advanced in terms when it comes to digital marketing in general, and like they are doing it like differently with their proper landscape, etc. But because I remember like it was now like I was amazed 10 years ago when I went there for like a business trip, and I had an experience at the Shangri-La in Shanghai, where I see your head, Luca. I was just invited by my employer.
okay.
It wasn't me paying for it.
Living the dream.
Yes.
What's going on there? How's he getting that?
And I was like just having this experience with when you could do everything through WeChat. You could do your check-in, check-out, and order like your room service through WeChat, have a chat with the concierge through WeChat. And it was just like super amazing. It was like saying it was 10 years ago, and I would be super curious to see how they will be implementing AI today, because if they are technically like 5-10 years ahead of us in terms of digital behavior, that would be interesting to dig to see how they are using it today. That was
another tip. Don't get me wrong, that I 100% would recommend doing that. As if you're in business, you've got to look to the east to understand how technology can impact us here. And I think people think that kind of America sets the standard there in technology. It's just not the case anymore. But just a really, really basic tip, I would say, if there are any hospitality businesses that are based in Europe, really do not neglect the types of channels that the Asian audiences are using. And if you look at China, for example, their equivalent of kind of Pinterest, I would say, it's called Xiaohongshu. So Xiaohongshu. If anyone's Chinese, they can correct my definitely wrong pronunciation, but it translates as Little Red Book. And Little Red Book is very similar to Pinterest. And again, when you're talking about influencer marketing, you're a UK business, you're a burger restaurant in Shoreditch, why not? Let's be honest, none of us are going to be able to run a Xiaohongshu account for it's just not worth our time. But maybe it is worth getting an influencer in that's, British born Chinese or is a Chinese kind of expat living in London, and have them in. And if they've got a Xiaohongshu account, you've got a presence there. And then again, suddenly, we work with Escargot in Soho, and the Asian audience absolutely loves it. Afternoon tea, steak, the snails, they just absolutely love it. And again, it's like the snowball starts to happen on these platforms, and you bring a new audience to your business. So I'd say a kind of practical tip, especially with Chinese audiences, is be aware. And obviously they have Douyin, which is TikTok, and Xiaohongshu, WeChat's massive, accepting WePay, Alipay, all of their kind of banking providers is a great one, because they have directories of, interestingly, Edinburgh is quite advanced on WeChat. Okay. Edinburgh does, you go up there and you've got all of the kind of stickers everywhere. And the only other place that's really, really good with those types of things are shopping outlets. So, if you're going to like Harrods or you go to Bicester Village, they're pretty clued up on accepting all of the
they know their audience,
the Chinese audience. Yeah, it's massive.
We are coming to the end. It was super insightful. I could be listening for, like, you explaining digital marketing for hours. Super inspiring, insightful, and I'm definitely hungry because we start talking about Gales, burgers, and food. So we have a tradition. We have like a couple questions we call the snap questions, just like to ease up the end of the podcast. So if I ask you if you are more tea or coffee, are you like Steve or not?
So I'm a coffee guy, but interestingly, I drink decaf coffee almost all the time. So I don't want to give you a long answer, but I'm pretty decaffeinated as an individual. But weirdly, interestingly, recently I've started drinking a lot more tea, but for the first time in years. But I'm a coffee guy.
Okay. So you are more on a hyperactive, and you want just like to not to.
Yeah, no one wants me. No one wants me later, Charlie. I was going to have one just before this podcast, but I thought it would be a bit.
You didn't need it
too much.
Yeah. Okay, so the best hospitality concept that you saw this year, or you stayed in, or
I don't want to get the Samash comment, but the best, I can't not say it, the best that I've experienced, and again, I was very, very lucky of how I got to go there, and it was kind of, helped through a travel company that we were working with at a significant discount, but it's called Il Boro San Pietro in Tuscany, and it really was that kind of back to nature. I mean, in the morning you can walk through the grounds, go to like the chickens, get your eggs, take them to breakfast, and the eggs you took out of the coop, they're
wow
for you.
Okay.
It was really, really special. It is an incredible place. Would I be able to go there again if I wasn't getting sorted by the travel brand? Not yet. One day. We keep building the agency.
Maybe you have to become an influencer, Charlie.
Some
you have yeah.
It's special place.
And what would be your next travel destination, and why?
My literal next travel destination is this week. I'm traveling to Albania for the second time.
Okay.
We have a large program of work with a specific client in the country. It was my first time going to Albania about a month ago. And the group that we're working with, they're called Infinity Group. Infinity Entertainment is the venture we're working on, and they own a number of hospitality assets, amongst other businesses. So they have casinos, restaurants, hotels, they own salon, taxi company, all sorts. And we're actually working twofold, not just with them as a company, but on a wider scale. We want to be working with actually kind of changing the perception of the country to a degree. When I was there, they actually won, I think it was CN Traveller or one of the big publications actually named one of the beaches in Albania as the most beautiful beach in the world. And that just happens to be where one of the hotel projects that we're working with, Infinity, will be. So that's incredible. But yeah, I mean, Albania has just so much beauty, incredible food. Where it's located is incredible. obviously you're literally right next to Italy. You've got Greece very close. It's kind of sandwiched between and Montenegro is just above, of course. But it's not really made it into the kind of European stage properly yet. Incredible country, incredible people. Obviously, they're one of their exports is Dua Lipa, who's obviously incredible. But yeah, there's
Sure.
just so much. There's so much going on there, and I'm heading there on Friday. And yeah, I was there. There's these kind of like bank holiday weekends that have been in the UK where I would usually go and relax and maybe go back to see family in Brighton or get out into the Cotswolds. And every bank holiday I've just been in Albania, helping kind of build this this business with the guys. But they're just incredible. And have either of you been to Albania?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. But I'm speaking of Albania, I'm going to attend a football game for the Euro, and they will be playing against Italy in I think in 1 month from now. So I will be watching the Albanian national team playing football. So that's would be my experience with Albania. Yeah.
Where's the game?
It's in Dortmund in Germany.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I'll have to see if there's any games. So, funnily enough, one of the sites that we work with is actually in the national football stadium of the Albanian football team.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. I've never seen them play, but maybe I will.
That would be my first time too.
Yeah, it's a cool country. I'd highly recommend it. There's a new international airport that's coming down south as well, which Tirana is really easy to fly into from any major airport. But what's really cool about it is you're like 45 minutes from all of the major kind of Italian cities on a plane as well. So it's incredible. Yeah. It's incredible.
So I will definitely consider it for my next travels. Last question, what would be your favorite elements, whatever, in marketing strategy when it comes to hospitality?
Just selfishly, just every business is different. Like, I just love the kind of getting into the weeds and just really understanding the nuances and the story and the kind of the differences between all of the different hospitality brands. And like you say, we're very, very blessed here in London with the constant supply of kind of new concepts. But ultimately, for me, selfishly, it's just people and the differences between all of the different businesses, which, the marketing, although our whole business is based around, growing people and leveraging online, ultimately it means nothing, like we said, unless the core business is as good as it can be. So yeah, for me, it's the differences in the different businesses, the people within those businesses, and then if we can actually help to change the trajectory of those people sometimes lives. And I think, funnily enough, the Albania project, that is definitely what the guys are doing there. They're going to probably be they will be the largest hospitality employer in the region. For, I think, bigger than anyone else in Croatia, Montenegro, Albania, kind of in the whole region. So
yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I just love the industry. We funnily enough, Ceek started as a hospitality focused agency. We very quickly moved into e-commerce, all of these other areas, and we still just keep going back. And although it's not the largest part of our business today, I'd say it's probably less than 30% of our total revenue. It's definitely the part that selfishly I enjoy the most. And again, why? I just love food. And I just, so you don't want to be paying for all the food.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's no professional justification. We just love food. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is your definition of hospitality?
Yeah, for me, it's just creating memories, creating memorable experiences, and changing people's state of mind. So, as small as a burger in a restaurant in Shoreditch can completely change your state of mind and the way you feel. And yeah, those interactions, if you think back to a lot of the best memories that you have, or personally, when I look back, they are linked to hospitality in some way, whether it's being with my family in a restaurant, whether it's a trip, whether it's, it's all linked back. So it's that ability to kind of, through an experience or a moment, change someone's state of mind.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's like a different perspective from the other people who we invited. It's lovely. Thank you, Charlie, for being with us. It was a blast for us. How can we keep up with your latest news in Ceek Marketing Agency?
Yeah, I mean, we're on all of you kind of your core channels. Instagram is at CEEK Ceek Marketing. Or just add me on LinkedIn. If anyone's got any questions, feel free. It's Charlie Terry on LinkedIn. And I'm looking forward to following along the podcast, guys, as you know, I know you're early in your journey there, and as that grows. And like we said just before the call, looking forward to going for a drink in London, and maybe we should go and try a burger spot to kind of inspire you for your venture. And I've got a few favorites.
Cool. Yeah, with pleasure. And who do you want to see next in this podcast?
Dua Lipa.
Yeah, Dua Lipa. I think we should get her in, talk about the Albanian roots.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're still at the early journey, guys.
Maybe it would be good to get someone, maybe someone from that group on the podcast. I think that would be great. Just speaking about the country, and I can make an introduction to you actually to the guy. He ran all of the fine dining and hospitality for Wynn in Las Vegas. And he's now moving back to Albania to spearhead all the hospitality there. So I'll be making the intro after the podcast.
Yeah, definitely, with pleasure. So we are good. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for everything. It was like really, it's sincere. It was really a blast for us to have you with us. Let's keep in touch.
Get a Room is not just a podcast, it's also a creative powerhouse dedicated to elevating brands in the hospitality industry. From luxurious hotels to relaxing bed and breakfasts, we are mastering the art of capturing the essence of a brand and translating it into consistent immersive experiences that leave a lasting impression.